Now, lastly, everybody needs to keep reiterating, what are we here fighting for? And we have the great woman here, Ann Gaebler, to itemize everything that we're fighting for and what we will not concede at the table for. Come on, Ann.
So now that we can talk about it, let's talk about the proposals. So in the NICU, we have sort of like a little sheltered environment. It's a happy place. You don't need a lift team. What is it? Is it 3 cotton balls per diaper change, or maybe 4? You know, nothing smells that bad. But the one thing that we notice is we hear it. Hear that. We hear the code grays. They come overhead. Code gray, emergency room 4. Code gray, emergency room 5. Code gray, 6 north. We hear it over and over again. I work day shift, and sometimes at 10 o'clock, we look at each other and go, okay, that's 7 so far this shift. Code grays. If you ever hear code gray in the NICU, please come. Please run really fast, because that means something really horrible is happening. But what I want you to know is that it may not happen on my unit a whole lot, but we know it is happening everywhere else. We have a woman, Donna, works at Herrick. She can tell you some code gray stories. She can tell you about workplace violence. So one of the things that we are really fighting for is workplace violence prevention, so that we can be safe at work, be safe in our garages here at the hospital, so that we're not having wheels stolen and arms broken and catalytic converters gone, all of those things. We want to hold the hospital accountable to the California Workplace Prevention Program, which went into effect in 2017. And last year, when all those Cal OSHA's citations happened, guess what some of them were about? Workplace violence prevention, the lack of unit-specific workplace violence prevention protocols. We recognize that we live in an urban area. We recognize that our population here is the same as the population inside. We want to be able to take care of our patients. We want to be able to welcome their families, but we want to be able to do this in a way that we are safe, that we are not subject to getting hurt. That's one big thing that we want. We also really, I'm looking at the NICU right here, and God bless the young ladies who have come in, because I've been here for 41 years. I too am going to retire someday. I'm not quite sure when, but I remember what it was like to be a new grad 41 years ago. And I remember I was supported. I had a new grad training program, 6 weeks in the classroom, 6 weeks of clinical. I had a preceptor that worked with me for another 6 weeks. I had a whole bunch of nurses who were like, what do you need? How can I help you? I would be like, oh, you've only been here for a couple of months, so we're going to put you next to this person as you're taking the higher acuity patient, so that you have someone where you can say, oh, hey, this thing is going on, what am I going to do? And it's like, great, thanks for asking the question. Let's give you the support that you need to become the fantastic nurse that you know you are. That's not happening anymore. We've got the revolving door here. People come, they stay for a couple of years, and where do they go? Down the street. We don't want that to happen. We want you guys to stay. I want you to be me in 40 years. I want you to have been at this facility and feel good about having worked here. Well, for most of those 40 years, I felt good about it. But it's really important. It's important that we have the tools and the wages, for one thing, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but the wages and the time and the allowance in our staffing, that we can support the people who are coming to work here and train them in the way that they want to be trained so that they are providing excellent, safe nursing care. We want them to be the us in the future. We also one of the things that we're talking about is ESL. Now, this is something that we probably never should have agreed to, but we did years ago, to have some of the PTO diverted into ESL, which essentially becomes a locked bank of extended sick leave that there's a whole bunch of roadblocks to accessing. So we're trying to unlock the bank. So we have two proposals. One is, let's do away with it. Just put it back in PTO and let the smart nurses use the time when they can. The other proposal is to expand what you can use it for. This is something to think about. Mike Hill has said this over and over again. Do the math. If you're paid $100 an hour and ESL max out at 1,000 hours, that's $100,000 of your earned benefit in an ESL bank. If you don't use it, when you leave or retire, you get paid 2 weeks. So if you are a full-time 1.0 employee, you get $8,000 of that $100,000, and Sutter Health keeps $92,000 of your earned benefit. So yeah, we're trying to open that bank up a little bit. Give it back to you guys who have earned it. We also have a proposal about PTO proration so that you can use your PTO, you can prorate it so that you, based on your FTE, so that you're using PTO at the same rate that you're earning it, so that you're not burning through your PTO and then a week of vacation comes up and you can't have it because you don't have any PTO. We have proposals about us. You have talked to us about what is important, about what you want, about the areas in the contract that we need to shore up and strengthen, and that's what we have based most of our proposals on. The last one, which of course for many people is the biggie, is the wages. And the goal that we have, it ties back into retention and recruitment, it ties back into staffing, all of those things. The goal that we have is that we don't want people to be leaving because they're going to get paid more elsewhere. We want people to stay here because this is a good place to work, and the salary will be commensurate with what it takes to live in the Bay Area. So that's what we're going for. That's why the 20% or 21 to 24% that some of the other hospitals have settled for. For us in Berkeley, California and Oakland, California, it's not enough. It's not enough to keep our nurses here, which is what we want to do. So it's not that we think that we're better than anybody. It's not that we think that we deserve more than anybody. It's that we want to keep people at this facility so that we can be the great hospital that we used to be. I've said this a million times. I've worked here for 41 years. I started here as a new grad in 1981 with Laura. We were in the first ever nursery training program. And at the time, this was just a little community hospital. It was just Alta Bates. It was before we had merged with Herrick. It was before the Summit merger happened. It was before we got taken over by Sutter. And it was the Cadillac of hospitals. My mom's sister, my aunt, was an operating room nurse at Stanford. And when she heard I got a job at Alta Bates, she called me and said, "How did you get a job at Alta Bates?" Because they didn't hire new grads. They didn't hire new grads at that time. And I said, well, they're doing this thing. They have a Nicu, it's a training program. And she was like, that hospital has the greatest reputation. And I experienced that when I first started working here. This hospital did have the greatest reputation. It was run by nurses. The director of nursing made rounds on the floors every day. She knew most of the nurses by name and knew something about their situations, their families, what their dogs' names were. She connected with us. You felt like you knew who you were working for and you wanted to do the best job that you possibly could. And that's where I want to get back to. I want to know who I'm working for. And I want to do the best job I possibly can. So that's what we're fighting for. Again, if there are questions, I know Terrell mentioned this as well, if you have more questions about specific proposals, please let me know. My address is all over the place, my text message is all over the place. If you don't have it, come and get it from me today. I'm happy to answer questions about what it is we're doing, what it is we're fighting for. I'm happy to hear your stories. That really helps us at the table. I mean, I recognize that Nicu is a cloistered environment. That's why we're glad that we have Jamila and Eric and Tina who are working in the big world with the big people. But it really helps to hear the stories. The other thing I really want to mention too is Sutter needs to be very careful because there's a solidarity that happens on this picket line that doesn't happen when we're in there and super busy. I have had more conversations with people from different units over this 5-day period and heard more things about what's going on that makes me feel even stronger than I did when I got here on Monday morning. We're not going away. This is our hospital.
Let's give it up for Ann Gaebler here.